We have a winner in Wilmington, Patrick Cantlay, collecting his first solo title this season at the BMW, defending his title from a year prior. He did also win the Zurich alongside his friend Xander Schauffele, who finished T3 in this one. So his second PGA Tour win of the season, but none bigger than this. Cantlay with a birdie at 17 gets one deeper than Scott Stallings with a par at the last for Cantlay, who held on a round of 2 under here in his round 4 as he collects the win and the $2.7 million that comes along with it. But all eyes are on the $18 million up for grabs a week from now. Cantlay will start the Tour Championship 2 shots back of Scottie Scheffler, who will begin at 10 under in pole position. And we'll unpack it all right now. And there are your numbers with Scheffler starting at the 10 under staggered start position. It's been a fantastic season for the potential Player of the Year award winner. But Scheffler will have to fend off the likes of Cantlay, who will start 2 back. Will Zalatoris, who withdrew this weekend from the BMW with back and hip issues. So we'll see what he can do with that 7 under starting position. Beyond him is Xander Schauffele, Sam Burns, and then a pack at 4 under with plenty more big names. The top 30 are headed to the A, and for more, we say hello to the man at the top of our personal leaderboard, CBS senior golf writer Kyle Porter. KP, it's Patrick Cantlay here at the BMW once again, becomes the first player in the 16-year history of the playoff to defend a playoff title, surprisingly enough. Not Tiger, not nobody. Wins back-to-back BMWs. Now going to look to defend that Tour Championship from a year ago, collect the $18 million. He's going to start 2 back. We'll get to all of that in a moment. How does Cantlay keep peaking here at year's end is my question for you now.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure he's asking the same thing, given how much money is on the line next week at Eastlake. You know, he played really well, obviously, at the BMW Championship. You have to when it's the 70 best guys on the PGA Tour throughout the year that you're going up against. And for him, it's been about, for the last 2 years, really, it's been about the putter. He's such a good all-around player, and to see him putt the way he has, at the last. For the last couple of years, obviously last year at the BMW Championship, he has one of the great putting performances of all time when he beats Bryson at Caves Valley, and then not quite as good this week, but still a really strong performance. So, for him, it will come down, I think, to the putter. Is he making a ton of putts? He hasn't had maybe quite as good of an encore year to that FedEx Cup win last year as he would have expected, but. Joe, now he's in a position to do what only Tiger and Rory have ever done, which is win multiple FedEx Cups, which is, it's not a major championship, and I'm sure that he would probably trade, if he does have 2, at least one of those for a major championship, but it's still a big deal, and it's still really, really difficult to do, especially considering the caliber of player that's going to Eastlake in the Tour Championship next week. So a lot on the line for Cantlay, for his career, for his future next week. And he put himself in position for that to be true by his a really good performance, obviously, this week at the BMW.
Yeah, if he is able to do it, that'll be better than $30 million over the last 2 years, just at the Tour Championship alone, if he hoists silver once again. As you said, maybe not as prolific as years past, but 11 top 10s this year. This is his first solo win of the season to go along with those 11 top 10s, which is the best on tour. He did have the win with Xander at the Zurich, but we are now talking about this staggered start at the Tour Championship. It'll go Scheffler, Cantlay, Zalatoris, Schauffele, and then Burns. In your eyes, is that an accurate representation of the golf that's been played this season?
Yeah, it's close. It's not exactly. If we could pull that the staggered start back up, I'd like to kind of talk my way through it. But I think it's you've got certainly several names in there that have had great years. I think Scottie Scheffler has owned the year in a lot of ways. Cameron Smith. Right there with him. I think what's really interesting, Joe, about somebody like a Will Zalatoris, somebody like a Patrick Cantlay, is both of them only has one individual win. Both came in the playoffs, coincidentally, but both have played really, like you said, sort of solid golf throughout the year. Now, again, Cantlay's encore to last year, wins-wise, hasn't been as good as maybe he hoped. Certainly not at the major championships. But this is actually almost a better representation of statistical consistency than it is who's won the most events, which I think is actually really interesting to me. You get down toward the bottom there, and Sepp Straka, Sung J M, have those guys been better than like a Cam Young or a Justin Thomas who won a major championship? I don't know about that. That's where it gets a little bit kind of dicey for me. But I think this is a decent representation of who has played the best golf so far in 2022 on the PGA Tour.
There's always so much to untangle here when we're talking about these final moments come playoff time. For instance, Xander misses a putt there at the 72nd hole that, in fact, cost Patrick Cantlay, his good pal, the pole position next week. If he would have made it, he would have been one better than Scottie Scheffler this week, cost Scheffler some points. Scheffler would have shifted into the 2 position. We also saw a 42-year-old Adam Scott get up and down from a fairway bunker at the 72nd, which guaranteed him that 30th spot in the rankings and $500,000 in tow as well. I think we have that video here of Adam Scott getting up and down. I mean, we're talking about 42 years old, KP, and still getting the job done. Played his way into this one at Southwind, played his way out of the BMW and into the Tour Championship now. Your impressions here on Adam Scott, and a guy who really has just been longevity personified.
Yeah, and all doing it all while looking like he's using an iPhone at the end of a stick for his putter there, which is probably the most impressive part. I thought Dan Rappaport, one of my colleagues over at Golf Digest and a friend, said it well when he said, you know, when Adam Scott's leading a PGA Tour event like he was earlier this week at the BMW Championship, it makes you wonder how Adam Scott is ever not leading a PGA Tour event. You know, to watch that swing. To watch him kind of pure it all over the yard at Wilmington Country Club is it's always fun to watch. It's always impressive. And I think it speaks to sort of the volatility of the PGA Tour playoffs. That can go against you, certainly. It's really hard if you're somebody like a Lucas Glover who starts 123 or 122 on the FedEx Cup list to rise to the Tour Championship. But you can do it, you know, and that's where it's almost like and this is the last year of it. I know we're going to 70 next year for the FedEx Cup playoffs, but it's almost like an NFL team getting in the playoffs at 8-8, and maybe they had a bad first month or some injuries in the middle of the year, and once you're in, you can turn it on like Adam Scott has. And make it all the way to Eastlake. So I think that is part of if you think the FedEx Cup playoffs are good, I think that's one reason that you would kind of tout them as being a good thing for PGA Tour fans.
So Adam Scott is the New York Giants is what we take away from this conversation.
For sure.
KP, we know the starting positions, 10 under, 8 under, 6 under. It's going to have an obvious effect on the outcome next week, but how does a 30-man field change things for these guys who are so used to going out there and teeing it up with 100-plus guys next to them?
Well, I think what's interesting about that is I think it keeps guys, especially at the top, more patient throughout the week. You know, I think sometimes you get out there on, let's say you have a Thursday afternoon tee time and JT Poston shot a 61 in the morning. You're like, wow, I'm 10 down. I haven't even hit a ball yet, you know, and you've got so many guys in whether it's a 156-man field or 144 or whatever it is. Now, the flip side of that is the best guys are in the 30-man field, right? You have the biggest stars and superstars in the world. So those are harder guys to kind of fend off, but you don't have to worry as much about the semi-random 61, 62 guys racing out in front and kind of, maybe even involuntarily trying to keep up with that like we've seen happen in the past. I think it keeps guys more patient throughout the week, especially with the staggered start. I mean, Scottie Scheffler can, he can't be nonchalant, but he can be super patient. If things don't go well in the first 9 on Thursday, he's probably still going to be in the lead. And I think you couple that with only having 29 other guys that you have to beat, and it keeps guys really patient and maybe makes for some wiser decision-making throughout the week, which is maybe not as fun for fans, when Spieth is not making just absurd decisions all over the golf course, but I think is probably more enjoyable for players as they go out and try to win $18 million.
Well, let's put that pacing into a bit of perspective here, because 20 of the 30 remaining guys will enter the week within 8 shots of that $18 million. And for reference, that's the same deficit JT erased over 10 holes at the PGA Championship. I'm just saying, let's not engrave the thing just yet. Who's a guy maybe further back in the pack that has your eye, maybe poised to give it a run at Eastlake?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will say that the 3 winners since we've had this, I believe they've all been in the top 5 going in. So while that does happen, it has seemed to matter. Again, tiny sample size. It's just 3 years. But you had Cantlay do it. I can't remember the 2 before him, but I think Rory was one of them. But so you do have guys kind of from that top tier of players. They have emerged so far over the past 3 years. But all that being said, Rory is a guy he's a little bit further back, but not so far back that that it's impossible for him to catch up. He's 6 strokes back. I think even more than him having a kind of a small deficit is just the way he hit the golf ball at the BMW Championship. He didn't play very well in Memphis. Obviously missed the cut there. He did not hit it great. Was coming off that emotional Open Championship, hadn't played a ton, and just played poorly in Memphis. He played great this week at the BMW. He just didn't make any putts. He led the field by far from tee to green at the BMW Championship. He's obviously thrived at Eastlake. He's won 2 Tour Championships there, 2 FedEx Cups. So I think there's a route for Rory to make that number 3 and put another $18 million on the board next weekend.
Yeah, he did win the inaugural in this format back in 2019, followed by Dustin Johnson and then Patrick Cantlay a year ago. As we take a look at who may or may not get this done a week from now and claim that $18 million. You can put me down for Jon Rahm as a chaser, but let's get to a pick to win here, Kyle Porter. Is it Scottie Scheffler? Does he bookend the season that was and ultimately take home that Player of the Year trophy as well?
Yeah, you know, coming into the playoffs, I kind of had my eye on Finau. I thought Finau was going to get it done at the FedEx Cup or to win the FedEx Cup. He still might, you know, but I am going with Scottie Scheffler. I think there's a couple of reasons. I just referenced the one where, you know, nobody's come from outside that sort of top 5 going into the week to win the FedEx Cup. We've had guys take a look at it. You know, Kevin Na last year. We've seen different guys do that over the past 3 years, but it's just hard to do. It's hard to give Scottie Scheffler, you know, one shot, much less 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on a bunch of these guys. And be able to chase him down. He played really well at the BMW. And I think maybe the overall reason that I like Scheffler this weekend is, and this is maybe more of an intangible reason, Joe, but we've seen guys own years. So Jordan Spieth owns 2015. Justin Thomas owns 2017. And we've seen those guys go on to win the FedEx Cup to kind of cap it off. That feels like what's going on with Scheffler right now. Obviously doesn't mean he's going to win. Obviously doesn't mean anything at all. He does start with, you know, the most strokes, that 10-stroke advantage, or that 10-stroke starting mark at the Tour Championship. But it just has been his year all year, and it would make a ton of sense to me for him to go out and kind of cap that with a Tour Championship, a FedEx Cup, and $18 million to go with his Masters and 3 other victories this year.
What a season it would be. We'll see if he can get the job done with that 2-stroke lead in his back pocket. KP, before we let you go here, broad strokes, the playoff really has delivered over the last 2 weeks. Exciting tournaments, thrilling finishes. How big of a moment or moments are these next 4 days in Atlanta in terms of what the tour offers, both its members and its viewers?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. You know, we heard a lot last week, and I was just writing about sort of this megawatt meeting in Delaware with Tiger and Rory and all these guys sort of planning the future of the PGA Tour. And so I think to get a winner like a Scheffler, like a Rory, like a Spieth or a JT or somebody like that has pushed their chips in and said, hey, I'm all in with the PGA Tour, would be a really meaningful thing. We're going to hear from Jay Monahan, I believe, leading up to the Tour Championship. It's going to be really interesting to see what he has to say, especially with a live golf event the following week after the Tour Championship up in Boston. I mean, I think a question that's sort of lingering over this Tour Championship is what if Cam Smith wins and then leaves the next week for live golf? That has not been, you know, he has not announced that he's leaving. He has not confirmed that he's leaving. All signs point to the fact that he is leaving. So you'd have somebody that's the Players Champion, the Open Champion, and the FedEx Cup winner potentially leaving for live golf. That would be tough. That would be tough for them to kind of look at at the very end of their season. So I think it does matter who wins next week, maybe more so than usual, definitely more so than usual than we've seen in past Tour Championships.
On course and off, we'll continue to come to Kyle Porter for all the latest in the world of golf. Thank you, KP. And here's one more look at where they will start Thursday at Eastlake. Scottie Scheffler, pole position, 2 shots clear of the other 29 contestants. Patrick Cantlay, following his win here at the BMW, will be next closest at 8 under to start. Will Zalatoris, Xander Schauffele, and Sam Burns rounding out those with advantages. Then they bunch up at 4 under, a pack that includes the likes of Smith, McIlroy, Finau, and others. And don't forget, for all the latest in the world of golf, be sure to tune into the premier pod in the game. It's the First Cut Podcast. Our guys, Kyle Porter, Rick Game, and the whole gang, taking you under the ropes and into the action week in and week out, round by round. Join the conversation right now on the First Cut Podcast.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.